teyela ekuhendweni nasesibatheni nasezinkanukweni ezininzi ezibubudenge ezenzakalisayo zona zibatshonisayo abantu ekonakaleni nasekuzitshabalaleni, kuba ukuthanda imali yincambu yento yonke ezimbi abathe abathile ngokuzolulela kuko balahlekana nokholo, azibhodloza ngobuhlungu obuninzi. Ke wena mntu kaThixo, zibaleke ezo zinto, phuthuma ke ubulungisa, ukuhlonela uThixo, kholo, uthando, unyamezelo, ubulali, uzame umzamo omhle wokholo, bubambe ubomu obungunaphakade owabizelwa nokubizelwa kubo, waze waluvuma uvumo oluhle emehlweni amangqina amaninzi. Ndiyakuthethela emehlweni kaThixo uzidlise ubomi zonke izinto, nasemehlweni kaKristu uYesu, owangqina wavuma uvumo oluhle phambi koPontius Pilato, ukuba ugcine umthetho lo ungabi nabala, ungabi nakukhalazelwa, kude kufike ukubonakala kweNkosi yethu uYesu Kristu, eyawukubonakalisa ngawakhe amaxesha lowo usikelelekileyo ukuphela konamandla, ukumkani wokumkani, uNkosi kankosi, ukuphela konokungafi, ehleli engumoya oyingcwele ohleliyo ngona ngaphakathi kwethu. Hayi, ndaphazama. Ehleli ehleli enyameni, ehleli ekukhanyeni okungasondelwayo, ekungekho namnye kubantu owakhe wambona nonako ukumbona. Kuye makubekho imbeko namandla angunaphakade. Amen. Abazizityebi kweli phakade langoku bathethele, bangakratshi, bangathembeli ubutyebi bunganqalekiyo. Mababe noThixo ophilileyo, obeka phambi kwethu izinto zonke ngokobutyebi, ukuba zidliwe benze okulungileyo, babe zizityebi zemisebenzi emihle, babe nokwaba kakuhle, babe nobudlelane, baziqwebele isiseko esihle, base exesheni eliza kuza, ukuze babubambe ubomu obungunaphakade. Eli ke lilizwi likaThixo, unoyolo olivayo aze aligcine azalenze. We are in this book of Saint Luke, chapter 16, from verse 19. Jesus was massively alert to and concerned for the terrible cynical inequities that beset the human community. uYesu wayekuqalile ekhathala kakhulu inhlalo yokungalingani kwabantu. He told a story about those inequities to help his hearers think again. Wachaza ibali ukunceda abo babemphulaphule ukuba bacinge nzulu. Even after we are weary of thinking on the subject, nangona sidiniwe into yokuba sibe sicingana naloo nto. Here in chapter 16, St. Luke, verse 19, Jesus starts by saying there was a rich man. Kwakukwindoda esisityebi. There always is. Kusoloko ke ekhona ke umuntu ongusaziwayo. He is the first mentioned in the story. Ungokuqala ke ukhankanywa kwelibali lika Yesu. He is the one who is worth of noticing. Indoda eqwalasekayo, the one who will claim our major attention. Uye ke oyakuba ngumdlali oqaqambileyo kwelibali lika Yesu. He is, as he is expected to be, the main character. Ungoyena ke umkhulu kwelibali. But always in the shadow of the rich man, there is other one, his counterpart, the poor man. Soloko ke xa kukho sityebi sithile, qiniseka ukhona omnye umuntu apha esithunzini sakhe olambileyo. They belong together, having something like an independent relationship. Aba bantu abanabudlelwana omnye nomnye, kodwa baphila kunye. It is astonishing that whenever we find great wealth, it will be shadowed by great poverty. Ngalo lonke ixesha ke kukho ubutyebi, kuyasoko kukho ke inhlupheko enkulu. The first sin is about their life together on earth. Bombokuqala apha kubonakaliswa aba bantu bobabini balapha emhlabeni baphila kunye. But remember this, as Job says in the book of Job, chapter 14, verse 1 to 2, it is a very short sin. Life is very short because the action is predictable and not very interesting. Obubom abunanto isamdla ngoba siyayazi. Indeed, there is more description here than action. Kukho inkcazo ngaphezu into yokuba kukho into eyenzekayo. Kuqalwa ngale ndoda, this rich man is dressed in fine linen and eats something like a banquet at every meal. There was nothing for him of do not be anxious what you shall eat or what you shall drink. Lo mazwi akabhekiswa kuye into yokuba ungabi naxhala into yokuba uyawudla ntoni na usele ntoni na. He has one of those. He hasn't got those worries at all. He has no anxiety because his life is good. Bombakhe bulungile, crowned with mercy and loving kindness. Lo mntu sikelelekile. There is nothing surprising about the poor man either. Xa ukhangela le ndoda uyiqathanisa nale akho nto yothusayo. He is covered with sores. Umzimba wakhe wawugcwele zizilonda. Probably he had no health insurance, akana medical aid. Uyayivala ndoda xa ichazwa phaa kuthiwa yayizombathisa ngelinen ecikidekileyo. Xa kuchazwa le ndoda yona kuthiwa le ndoda yona umzimba wayo wawugcwele zizilonda. He eats the droppings from the table, so weak and defenseless, and are available only to the dogs that lick his wounds. Le ndoda ke inqwenela into yokuba izalise isisu sayo kamaqhekeza awa kuloo tafile yaloo ndoda. Even the dogs have no respect for him. le ndoda nezinja azihloniphanga. As he always does, Jesus, the storyteller, draws the contrast sharply. uYesu ke he's an expert when it comes to tell the story. There is no middle ground here, no spillover from one to the other. It is as though a great chasm stands between the rich man and the poor man. Ukumsanso omkhulu phakathi kwale ndoda inezinto nale ndoda ingenazinto. And neither is able to reach across it to make contact. Akukho ndlela uba le ndoda isweleyo ingawunqumla lamsansa iyodibana nale ndoda inento zayo. Akukho ndlela, akukho kungadityanwa. Well, at least for a while. For ixesha nelifutshane, ngoba ixesha lobubomi lifutshane. There is nothing in common between them. Nothing common. In an instant, however, they have everything in common. Komzuzu, aba bantu ubabona bekwimeko enye. What they have in common overcomes all that was different between them. Yonke la difference likati khona, when you read in verse 22, at the top of verse 22, the Bible says, the poor man dies. You knew he would. That doesn't come as a surprise. Quickly and unnoticed, perhaps, Lendoda died of infection, perhaps because of malnutrition, ayondleganga, perhaps simply because of neglect. Imagine, he was ungrieved, akomdu ililelayo, he is not remembered, akomdu uyikumbulayo. But the end of the same verse 22, one phrase later, the rich man dies. You see, the rich man dies. Because death has no status. Death doesn't respect who you are, how much you have, how much you do not have. What your position in the society. It is a moment of dreadful equity. Alike for an instant. The first part of the story, the account of their life on earth together, is not very revealing. There is not that much on earth that is being revealed about their lives. We all know this much about rich and the poor. Even without this story, siyayazi lento yabantu abanemali nabantu abangenamali asinidi kuyibaliselwa nguYesu. We know that the rich and poor are very different in life, very alike in death. Let's repeat that. We know that the rich and poor are very different in life, yet very alike in death. In Bible Xhosa inendawo pha ethi lafa ihlwempu and he was carried by the angels. Umga olandelayo kuthiwa safa isityebi saze sangcwatywa. I can imagine lo mngcwabo indlela omkhulu ngayo. I don't know how many izithethi zazilapho. Andiwazi into yokuba zazingaphi imoto ezazilapho. Andazi kwakunxitywe kanjani kulo mngcwabo. But it is after death that the story becomes interesting. Because the story takes us into the part of their life which we have not yet seen or experienced. Then Jesus takes us to another part of their lives that we have never seen nor experienced. The storyteller, that is Jesus, takes us on ahead of our own lived experience. Asisuse kulamava ethu obubomu. The most important part of the story begins only now. Liyaqala ke elibali ke apha endingathanda into yokuba uphulaphule. The crucial element in their life, so Jesus suggests, is the part that remains unseen, and here we are permitted to see what we have not seen. Eyona nto ibobomu obude obunomdla obubomu singazange sibu experience, singazange sibubone uYesu afuna usixelela ngabo. The story is such an odd proposal, odd especially to the sophisticated people like us, to suggest that the real stuff of our life happens after death. That obanabomi bethu ubakho emveni kokufa. Beyond our lavish eating and crumbly surviving, something very strange happens. Ngenzekayo apha. Appearances no longer count. Indoba apha ukhangele kanjani, ezo zinto azibali. Old advantages are suddenly dysfunctional and irrelevant. Indoba ungubani, funde kangakanani, sasithini isihlalo sakho, zonke ezo nto ezo azibali apha. Umhle kangakanani na, umbi kangakanani na. On the one hand, the story resists our cool cynicism that when you are dead, you are dead. Irresist Alondo. No tragedy of one's life continues. On the other hand, the story also resists any scare that you will have to pay for pet little utterance about sex and all of those values we hear about so much. Jesus is a storyteller of considerable range and imagination. When it comes to tell the stories. It seems as if Jesus has read the Old Testament and he knows the theological options that are available for a storyteller. He knows about Father Abraham because he has read the book of Genesis. He knows about singing rock, "Are my soul in the bosom of Abraham." He imagines this embracing gentle old father who waits at the death to embrace the well-beloved children. No question asked, no condition, no qualification to meet. Just come on home to comfort and warmth and caring. But Jesus had kept reading the old scroll even after Genesis, right into Exodus. He read right into the terror of Moses at Mount Sinai. With all the harsh revolutionary requirements, he could still feel the tremble of Moses demanding, if you obey, you may come on the covenant. If you don't obey, that's because you are in some big trouble. The people that put these ancient texts together notice that Moses did indeed trust in the promises God had made to Abraham. Moses wayekholelwa kwizithembiso nakumadinga ka-Abraham. But there was nothing in Moses of the warm embrace of Father Abraham, because the mountain was too severe and the revolution was so urgent And so nobody ever sang about rock and my soul in the bosom of Moses. Moses is too harsh and cold and demanding. That's the difference between Moses and Abraham. So Jesus brings these two old, tense memories into our story of the two dead men. Each dead man received one dimension of the old faith. The poor man died first. It was the only time in his life he had been first. Khumbula kaloku zonke izinto ngabantu abakhulu abanikwa nesihlalo kule mihlangano kungena bona kuqala kutya bona kuqala nasezitafuleni bayakhankanywa bona kuqala. It was the first time this man preceded the rich man. He is assigned first to part of the faith of the Old Testament. Would you believe he is assigned to the bosom of Father Abraham? We are calling na into yokuba waphelela esifubeni sika Abraham. Even though I would have thought that place was reserved for the rich man, I would have expected the rich man to be there. He is gathered to the carrying bosom as his abiding place in the age to come. He is there. Ulapho umdaka neslonda, but deeply loved in the welcoming embrace of Father Abraham. The rich man, as you know, died too. Nalendoda nayo yafa. He had assumed, and I had assumed, that he was the one headed for the bosom of Abraham. Instead, however, we find him quickly, without pause or comment, in the torment of Hades. Not the wrath of embrace, but the heat of wretchedness. So they are both situated, but neither got what I thought was coming to him. The poor man never speaks. It's amazing. In this conversation, there is nothing that is coming from the poor man. The poor man doesn't speak. He is used to not speaking because the poor learn to keep their mouth shut. And besides, what does he need to say? He got the best part of the old theology. He got the receptivity of Genesis and is fully at home. Now listen to this. The rich man is stunned, mangalisiwe indoda enkulu, and think there must be a mistake. He is accustomed to better reservations. Landoda kaloku noba iyaflya iyabhukishelwa noba izawulala ehotele, people they reserve best rooms for them, and now has been wrongly assigned to the annex. Usiwe endaweni wrong. His request of Father Abraham is modest. Umva xa enesicelo sithobileyo uAbraham, he asked for mercy. Remember that back before he died, the rich man had not asked for mercy or anything else because he did not need it, nor did he grant any. Lendoda ayizange yaka yacela inceba ngoba yayingayidingi. Now the rich man asked a small thing. Cela into encinci. He asked for Lazarus, the poor man, to be his water boy. Khala ucela lendoda imphathele amanzi. Come bring cool water for my burning lips. He asked for it in the agony of the flames. He is accustomed to summoning the people who is always ready to serve, being a member of the pitiful labor pool. Gumntu oqhele ukuthuma abantu. Cha akazazi le ndawo akuyo ngoku nangoku usathuma. The rich man assumed that the old roles and old patterns of power and domination would continue to operate even there. Qinisekile ba izinto zizawuhamba ngola hlobo beziqhela uhamba ngalo. Father Abraham, however, Abraham knows better. Was ngcono. Abraham is firm with the rich man. Qinisekile. Wema. He's very firm with the rich man. When things Judge Zondo, firm, dilishana, notata uzuma, kwesa sicelo sakhe. But he is not unkind. He calls to the rich man, child. He does not reject him and admits that they are related to each other, though remotely. But Father Abraham tells him the truth about his situation, the new truth of his life in his changed circumstances. The truth is, you used up your quotas of good stuff. You've got no more. Yonke into elungileyo uyigonqozile. You use your advantage carelessly, insensitively. Lazarus, by contrast, never received much of the good stuff to which he is entitled. He always been entitled. So he has begun on it now. Belatedly, of course. This is an astonishing reversal. You in agony, he comforted. So unlike, it was strange when the rich man had his way. But death is an extremity, a limit. And there God moves in on things, takes them out of our control, and rearrange life in a drastic ways. So the two are positioned, one close to the Father of all mercies, the one cut off for the first time in his life. Cut off. No, says Father Abraham to the rich man. It is all settled and cannot be renegotiated. There is a deep ditch between his comfort and your agony. The same kind of bias that you exist between your wealth and his need. I cannot reach across to you nor bring water for your parched lips. You cannot come over here nor bosom for your discomfort. There the ditch is. It is settled now. In fact, it was settled since you were rich and indifferent. He was poor and neglected. You, of course, did not know it. But even then, you were settling your long-term choice of the reversal theological alternatives that are given in the old scrolls, settled between gentleness of Genesis and excavation of Exodus. You see, lo msansa uphakathi kwale ndoda isisityebi nale ndoda ingena nto inguLazaro. Ubufunda iBhayibhile lesixhosa ithi kwakukhahlelwe emasangweni akhe. Elagama ukukhahlela, it means he was deliberately dropped. He was put there for attention, for the rich man to reach out to this poor man. But the rich man never saw him. Akazange ambone. Wayedlula kuye engamboni engamazi. He became invisible. The rich man is in character. He does not bargain or beg. Umnyumdulu akazange acenge acele. He is used to facing reality. So he let it be. Wayamkela lincazelo ka-Abraham. He knows he is destined to be on the wrong side of the ditch, far away from water, comfort, or relief. But he is also a family man with family values. He no longer thinks of himself, but only of his brothers. 5 of them. You know, I thought that for a long time, that Lomdu Lona Gabakatalela Bantu. And I was wrong. He proves me wrong here. We have a Katalela Abandu. But to Katalela Bantu Bache. Even now, at this moment, he does not think of other people. He thinks of his 5 brothers only in the whole world. He thinks only of these 5 brothers. And the question I'm asking you, is that how you are? That there is nothing else you are thinking about. You think of yourself, you think of your children, you don't think of anybody else. And you go to extra mile and bride yourself in activities that are illegal and immoral and unethical because you are thinking of yourself and 5 of your family members only. How about the poor us? How about the others? If you can just break away from that mentality, the pain that we are suffering in the world could be reduced without even God intervening, because there are people that you can intervene. Remember, the person who's living next door. Next door. Can you open your eyes and see his predicament? Don't wait until it is that day where things can never be changed. Now, listen to this. Listen to this. He thinks of this 5 of his family. But it's too late for them. In fact, he thinks that it's too late for him. But it's not too late for them. That's what he thinks. He says, I'm here, there's nothing I can do, but my 5 brothers, at least something can be done. If only they can find out that the hidden stuff after death is more crucial and risky matter. Utubanga baba no yazi into yokuba ubona bude busemveni kokufa ukwenzela uba they cannot take that risk, they end up where I am. In our hearing of the story, we are closer to the role of the brothers. For us, like the brothers, it is not too late. If only we can be adequately be warned. Masisithathe into yokuba singobrother balendoda siyawoniswa. So the rich man proposes to Father Abraham, proposes to Abraham, send them Lazarus. It did not work to have Lazarus bring water, but this is a more noble task. Okay, tata njenge boy, but this one is a noble task. Kautumelu Lazaro. If only the brothers can get a wake-up call before it is too late, so that they can look again at the rich-poor business. This relationship of the rich and poor relationship. I only acted as I did because I did not know any better. Unwarned, I did what everyone else was doing. But Father Abraham is so unaccommodating. No, Lazarus will not go on your errand. No, Lazarus is comfortable here. And I am not going to disturb his well-earned rest. No more messengers. The messenger has already been sent a long time ago. What is that? Oh, you mean Moses? Hard, tough, unaccommodating Moses. The message was very clear. Thou shalt not worship other gods. Thou shalt not make images out of your stuff. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not covet, love your neighbor. I never understood that was a message. I certainly never took it as a warning. I thought it was just a bunch of rules for concrete operational people who are not too far along on the faith journey towards self-actualization. Second, somebody else. No, nobody else will be sent. So the last scene we have in this story is of Lazarus held close, basking in the wondrous tradition of Abraham. The rich man sat in the context of harsh Moses, wiping his feverish brows, endlessly trapped on the wrong side of the ditch, cut off from all forms of life and hope. Well, this is a hard, demanding story. I would not dare to tell it to you, mostly strangers to me, except it is the text that I have chose this morning. But it is only the story, not more, not a blueprint, not an advice, not a scare, not an urging, scolding. And besides, there is nothing here about what one must do. Nothing here about being liberal or conservative. Nothing here about being Pentecostal, charismatic, or mainline church. Nothing here about welfare or private sector. Nothing here about how to vote or spend or share or save. The story does not ask anything to do. Anything. For who amongst us could entertain the notion that the important stuff in our life begins only afterward? Who could imagine that there is a ditch cast across our life, holding the potential for cutting us from all that we treasure? Who would think that such truth of Moses is enough when there is better wondrous truth of Abraham? Mamela man, kukho into apha ofuneka uyiqaphele kakuhle. Yintoni isizathu sokuba ndikhethe elibali lichazwa nguYesu? Ndilikhethe elibali, ndilikhethiswa yile meko esisizwe sikuso. Eyiphi meko? Le meko yonxunguphalo, le meko yenhlungu, le meko yokuphelelwa kwabantu imisebenzi, le meko yokubhujelwa kwabantu ngabazali, ngabantwana, ngomama, ngodada, le meko yokuphalalelwa ngabantwana bethu, le meko enokwenza into yokuba you keep to yourself and you've got nothing to do with others, and you have a life that is so egocentric and egoistic, that is family focused, and begin not to have a neighborliness relationship. And remember, la verse iti kwakukho indoda esisityebi kwaye kukhahlelwe esangweni layo indoda eyayihluphekile inezilonda, yena njengoba enxibe ilinen, le ndoda yayombathe izilonda, and he was strategically positioned in order to get the attention of the rich man, who was able to do something for this man. He never saw him. The challenge that I'm putting across to myself, to you, can we begin to open our eyes and begin to look around? There's a pain that is surrounding us. There is a cry, there is a tear. that is falling in front of us. There's somebody who's hurting. But these people, they are so small and they are so insignificant. Not in terms of age, but in terms of importance. To an extent that there is a chasm between us and them. And funny enough, they are practically impossible for them to bridge that gap. They can't because they are immobile. Le ndoda ayinezilonda and le ndoda inezilonda nje uyawuthi nezilonda ube nemvlap uqaqanjelwe ilambile iyanuka khangeleka contagious, khangeleka njengomuntu ongathi unosondela kuye wasuleleke. The Bible says it is only you. You see, listen to this story. Listen to this story. The rich man on the other side, on the wrong side of the ditch, he says, "Makuthunyelwe uLazaro." He expects Lazarus to bridge that gap. And Abraham says, no. Kukumsanza phakathi kwethu. Abantu abalapha abezi ngapha. Abangapha abezi ngapha. We learn that from you. When you are here on the earth, you never crossed that bridge. You never made an effort to build up that bridge so that those who are on the other side, economically, educationally, and otherwise, you make it a possibility. You make it easy for them to come closer in order for you to share what God has blessed you with. We are surrounded by pain. We are surrounded by tears, agony. Let's open our eyes. Let's reach out. Don't burn the bridges, build the bridges. Can you go to your neighbor and just knock at the door? Just ask them, how are you? What is it that I can do to be of assistance to you? You won't lose anything. That's our culture as black people. One of the things that, before I close, 1994, we gained liberation. Wonderful. We lost Ubuntu. Silahlekelwe Ubuntu. Asincede uThixo asibuyisele ebuntwini. This life is very short and is full of troubles. Make sure that you are not on the wrong side of the ditch. God bless you. Bawo zukolo lwakho imbeko indini uyikeka nokuhlonipheka. Kuyizolo wena namhlanje wena phakade igama lakho imele ukuhlonitshwa egameni lenkosi Yesu Kristu. Amen. Thixo akusikelele. Elibali ndiyacela uphinde ulifunde. Mandivale ngelithi uyava mos phaa eBhayibhelini kuthiwa umzekeliso ayiphumi kuYesu ke laa nto ayibhalwanga nguYesu ke leyo into. Imizekeliso ke ayibi namagama. Nalaa ndawo kwakuwe kuyo imbewu nalaa mhlwayela akanagama, nonyana walahlekwa akanagama, notata akhe akanagama. Apha kukho amagama abantu, kukho Lazaro, kukho Abraham, kukho noMoses abamenshinwayo. Kubizwa amagama abantu apha. uThixo makakusikelele. God bless you. Continue to read this story. Please open your eyes. There's a pain around you. Abo bantu baziswe nguThixo. Unenjongo uThixo ngawe. You can. You are more than able. God bless you. Thank you.